Hello everyone, welcome to the Firewall Analyzer Free Training Series Part 1. I'm Nivedha Chandrasekhar, subject matter expert in enterprise security management with over 2 years of experience in product marketing. Let us straight away jump into the agenda for the day. First, we'll be looking at a typical network infrastructure and why firewalls play a critical role in network security. Second, we'll look at a more pertinent question in hand. Why should a security admin use Firewall Analyzer? From here on, we'll look at how to fetch rules and configuration from your firewall to Firewall Analyzer. And further, after fetching the rules and configuration, we'll have a look on rule management capabilities of Firewall Analyzer, configuration monitoring and backup capabilities of Firewall Analyzer. Finally, we'll also be looking at complaints and audit reports. As discussed before, let us look at a typical network infrastructure. A typical network infrastructure consists of router, WAN, LAN, multiple endpoint devices which connect to the WAN and LAN, various types of on-premise servers, including the Active Directory server, which manages permissions and access to network resources. And last but not the least, the gatekeeper to all these network devices is the firewall. Hackers generally can attack any one of these devices to get into the network, and ManageEngine products have the capability to monitor and report on all these network devices. However, today we'll be specifically looking at firewalls. Why firewall devices? Because firewall is the heart of security in an enterprise network. Once a hacker gets into the heart, that is the firewall device, he has unlimited access to our entire network. Now let us look at a more pertinent question in hand. What are the major reasons for a firewall device to be at risk and why Firewall Analyzer? Gartner predicts that 99% of exploited vulnerabilities will continue to be ones known by security and IT professionals for at least 1 year. So firewall misconfiguration and specifically the known misconfigurations are the issue, and hence it is critical to identify and fix your firewall misconfigurations. With hackers working around the clock to breach networks, it's essential to ensure that your firewall rules are spot on. Outdated firewall rules can be easily exploited by hackers to get into the network. Firewall rules need to be regularly audited and optimized. Security admins are in a constant tug of war with hackers, and to win this war, network admins constantly install new security devices, and on the other hand, hackers are always inventing the new ways to get around these systems. But merely installing security devices is of no use, and let's not stop merely with monitoring, but implement a monitoring combined with quick remediation solution, which is key in winning this tug of war. Finally, regulatory mandate does not ensure regulatory compliance, but also will help in covering most common security loopholes. Why Firewall Analyzer? A policy management and configuration reporting software which helps in managing and optimizing firewall rules and rule management, identifying who made what change when and where. Not only this, it also helps in taking a config backup just in case of disaster. Keeping track of security and traffic logs is the log analysis, and alarm management in notifying attacks and bandwidth anomalies. The last is the lack of complaints with mandates. It's a complaint management that is identifying firewall misconfigurations. Now that we got a brief on the capabilities of Firewall Analyzer, let us jump straight into how to fetch rules and configuration from your firewall to Firewall Analyzer. Step 1 is to configure your firewall device to generate syslogs at UDP port 1514, which would act as a listener port for Firewall Analyzer. Once you do this, you can perform log analysis and alarm management in the Firewall Analyzer. Step 2 is once you receive the syslogs from the firewall to Firewall Analyzer, credential profile can be set up for the specific device in the Firewall Analyzer. Once you do this, you get access to the inventory. that is, specific reports for each individual firewall device. Step 1 and Step 2 will be covered in detail in the next session, on which is scheduled for next week. Step 3 is once you set the credentials, you have to now fetch rules and configuration from your firewall and add device to the device rule. Once you do this, you get access to the rule management reports, config monitoring reports, and compliance management reports. We can fetch rules and configuration by two methods. The first method is where you can directly fetch rules and configuration from your firewall using CLI or API. The second way is to add device in the device, that is to directly upload rules and configuration. Now directly fetch rules and configuration from your firewall using CLI or API. CLI or API fetching is currently available for a select firewall vendors, and this will be shared at the end of the PPT. On the screen, you can see a sample screenshot on how to add the device info. Given on the left is a CLI of a firewall device. I have taken a case of Cisco firewall in this PPT. On the right is a Firewall Analyzer product UI. Here, you need to enter the username for CLI, its password, prompt, enable command, enable password, and enable prompt. I'll show you how it is done in the UI. Navigate to settings, and under firewall server, you click credentials. Here, if you look at it, there are multiple devices that had been added successfully. To add a device rule, you click on the add button, select the device, and you can select the option either it's CLI, API, or file. Select the credential profile, and the credential can be either primary or additional. Select the protocol, the firewall address, login name and password. And select prompt, and you click on the validate. And to check if the credentials are correct, and once you confirm the credentials, you can fetch the rules and generate security audit. Finally, you can also generate file management reports. The second way is to add device in the device rules is to directly upload the rules and configuration. First, you can export the configuration file from the firewall. Next, you need to create the rule file manually. It is a text file with each rule listed in a single line in the respective order, and each rule needs to be separated by a comma. Once you have the files, you can import the rules and configuration file actively and add device to the device rule. Let us look at how it is done in the product UI. Here, again, we click Add button, select the device, and you can click through the fetch. And you can add the devices by importing the rules and configuration. We have recently introduced a new method to add devices to Firewall Analyzer and monitor them. This new method of device addition does not require syslogs to be forwarded from the firewall device to Firewall Analyzer. These devices can be directly added to Firewall Analyzer for monitoring using the device name and IP address. This method is popularly used by auditors and managed service providers to manage firewall managed services to clients. Even without syslogs, Firewall can be run all its role and compliance management features. In the UI, under the Settings tab, click on Discovery and click Add Devices. And here we see the option to add device manually without syslog, and you select the firewall type, the vendor name, provide an IP address, and the device name. And you can also add the device rule from this option itself. But to do that, all you have to do is click this checkbox, add relevant information, and you're good to go. And once you fetch the rules and configuration your firewall, you get access to 3 reports: the rule management report, configuration management report, security audit, and compliance reports. Now let us look at a scenario. Jim is a new network admin who has the company. And in his company, there have been a lot of network security issues. As a primary task, he has been to do the following things: optimize firewall policies and rules, monitor changes made to the firewall configuration, and also schedule configuration backups and submit a detailed complaints security audit report. Let us look at where are the challenges faced by and how he overcomes these challenges. Let us look at the first task in hand for Jim. Jim has to optimize the firewall policies. To do this, Jim has the following challenges. First, Jim is new to the company, which means he does not have visibility to the rules. It is a pretty old company, and there are nearly more than 1,000 rules for him to review. He has to review each rule manually and has no direct visibility into the existing rules. Since it is an old company and the rules have not been reviewed from day one, there is a lot of duplicate and unused rules. More than one security admin has written the rules, and hence the rules are highly unoptimized. Not only this, as I mentioned earlier, the company has more than 1,000 rules, and hence any new rule that Jim plans to add might impact the existing rule set negatively. Finally, there are 5 firewalls in Jim company, and every time he needs to write a rule and analyze the impact of making the change, all this has to be done manually. These are the challenges faced by Jim. Let us look at how Firewall Analyzer rule management module can help Jim optimize the firewall rules. First, the policy overview report gives you the visibility to all the rules that have been written on the firewall. You can filter the rules according to the allowed and denied rules, inbound and outbound rules, inactive rules, login disable rules, any to any overly permissive rules, and you can download and analyze a list of rules. With this, Jim now gets the visibility into the complete list of firewalls, the rules in the firewall. Let us look at how this is in the product UI. So under Root Management tab, you click on Overview. And we need to look at the policy optimization report. So once you add the device to the device rules, you click on the rule management and click on the overview. And once you come to the screen, you choose the firewall device on whose policy you need to view. So you can click the firewall devices here. I'm clicking FortiGate 1. And here you see all the rules that are listed. And you can click on the total rules and view a detailed information on all the rules that are present on your firewall. So given this is the case, Jim now gets clear visibility into the existing rule set. And also given that Jim is new, this is extremely important to him. Even if he is not new, it is extremely important for the security admin to have visibility into all the security rules that are for any specific firewall. Now that Jim has solved the visibility issue, he has now to address the second issue. As mentioned before, the rules have been written by multiple security admins and have not been reviewed for over a long period of time. Because of this, there are a lot of anomalous rules and also overly permissive rules which affect the performance of the firewall. With Firewall Analyzer, you can rectify anomalies in the firewall policies, reduce overly permissive rules, fine-tune your existing rule set. Let us quickly jump to the policy optimization report in the product UI and see how this helps. So once again, under the rule management, you click on optimization, and under optimization, you can clearly see the various policy anomalies, rule suggestion, policy fine-tuning, object usage, and duplicate objects. Firewall Analyzer identifies the following rule anomalies: shadow, redundancy, generalization, correlation, and grouping. In this slide, we have given the detailed examples of all anomalies detected by Firewall Analyzer. Now let us look at how we can optimize using Firewall Analyzer from the product UI. So under policy anomalies, you can select the device name, and you can see that there are a couple of generalization rules and the grouping rules. And if you click on them, you get to understand what is the rule that is redundant and which rule it is redundant for. So this is the generalization rules. You can see the correlation rules here. And you can see the all rules that exist. Next is the rule suggestion. So with rule suggestion, once again, if you hit the generate, you get a list of overly permissive rules which are connected to overly permissive source or destination. And so with this, once again, you can clearly identify what are the rules that are overly permissive. And so overly permissive rules are generally a big issue. So because if you have too many overly permissive rules, it'll be an easier way for the attackers to get into the network. So Firewall Analyzer easily identifies these overly permissive rules. And for policy fine-tuning is where you can go for a specific rule option, and once you hit the fine-tune, you'll get a recommendation from the Firewall Analyzer on how that rule is affecting the existing rule set and how it can be optimized. So under project object usage, this tab provides an overview of network and service objects that have been used by firewalls based on syslogs received for a period of time. The duplicate object option displays the list of objects names that are associated with the multiple rules. Duplicate object report helps to find network service objects having the same set of IP addresses or services, but different object names. Duplicate objects slow down the firewall device, and with this report, you can identify and fix it. Next is a rule reorder report. With multiple security admins writing these rules, the rules are not optimally arranged. For example, say that a new rule was written recently and this takes the position number 500, but it is a rule which has a lot of hits, in other words, a frequently used rule. Every time the firewall processor has to go through all other 499 rules to get this rule, it takes a hit on the firewall processing speed. Firewall Analyzer provides a rule reorder report which helps you solve this problem. So let us take a look on how it is done. So under reorder tab, you can see the list of all rules here. And if you select a specific device, you can have so many ways that a reorder suggestion has been provided. So what this basically means that if a particular rule is moved from position, for example, let's take this rule 21. As you can see, it has moved from 23 to position number 1. Basically, it means that if this particular rule is moved from this position to this position, there's a probability of performance improvement of this number here, 100% performance improvement. So with this, you get a clear understanding of where your rule needs to be positioned to get the maximum out of your firewall. Having received these suggestions from both policy optimization report and reorder report, Jim can make further analysis the repercussion of these changes using the rule impact analysis. And post thorough analysis can also push these changes directly from Firewall Analyzer using our rule administrator feature. So the next couple of slides that I'll be discussing, I'll show you how to understand the impact of adding a rule and how to push a rule from a Firewall Analyzer to firewall devices. Next is the rule cleanup report. As I explained, Jim's company is an old company. There is a possibility that there are a lot of rules that has not been used, and since it is out of place, the same rules might be used to breach the network. With the Firewall Analyzer rule cleanup report, you'll get a detailed list of all the unused rules, unused objects, unassigned interfaces, and unassigned objects. It is recommended that first you deactivate these rules for a short period of time. And once you find that there is no impact on the network, the same can be safely removed. This would not only make your network safer, but it will also aid the firewall processing speed. So let's take a look on how this report looks like in the product UI. So on the rule management tab, you click on the cleanup, and here you can see the unused rules, unused objects, unassigned interfaces, and unassigned objects. So with this cleanup report, you can clearly understand that the rules are unused, unassigned, and unassigned objects. And as a result, you can understand what is needed and what is not needed. And you can deactivate them, check their impact, and you can go ahead and delete these rules. Why do we need an impact analysis? So before you add any rule, it is difficult to know the impact it can have on your entire rule set. Firewall rules are not typically independent from one another. In fact, most rules have a direct impact on a set of another rules. Given this case, you must take utmost caution before adding a new rule in this firewall. The simplest error can trigger a massive security loophole that either allows malicious traffic to sneak in or block legitimate traffic and disrupt the normal business. With the Firewall Analyzer's rule impact analysis, you can easily determine if the proposed new rule is going to impact the existing rule set negatively. The rule impact feature does the following. It checks the proposed new rule against the existing rule for anomalies, suggests an optimal rule order by analyzing the proposed new rule for rule complexity and anomalies, identify any overly permissive destination interfaces for the proposed new rule, detects and reports on service, application, and interface level threats, singles out blacklisted IPs that are used in the proposed new rule, provides risk assessment for relevant service, application, and interface ports, and finally, you get object repetitiveness in a rule. So let's take a look on how this report looks like in the UI. So under role management, you click on the impact, select the device here. And let's say if you want to add a new rule without applying it to your firewall, all you had to do is fill out the impact information in the impact analysis button. So you provide a role name and select the position, source, destination, source interface, destination interface, service, action. It can be either allow or deny. And all these can be either any or select, or you can also custom it. And on report generation, you can check the box to consider your blacklisted IP file and browse them and import them from your device. And examine the object repetitiveness at first, where you can select the number of rules that you want. And it starts from 10 rules to the entire rule set. And you can click on generate report. So here, to know this report, you get the following inferences. Here, you get the anomaly detail. And we have like a redundancy report. And the rule reorder recommendation is provided, where moving the rule from position default to position 1, there's a possibility of improvement to the firewall performance. And we can also see there are no overly permissive or any source in this rule. And you can get the details of service application and the security threats. And you can also get interface level threats and blacklisted IP analysis. And finally, you get a risk and assessment for service application level of ports and interface level port. And you also get a list of objects that are repetitive with respect to both service and source object in other rules. So before you even write a specific rule, you get a detailed analysis of how this rule impacts your firewall. Hence, with this impact analysis feature, Jim can clearly identify the negative interaction even before a rule is made live. Till date, Firewall Analyzer was out and out reporting and monitoring tool, but with which this new feature, security administrators can push changes into their firewall directly from Firewall Analyzer. There are 4 major functions that you can perform using this feature. You can add, modify, and delete network and service objects. You can add, modify, and delete firewall rules. You can analyze the implications of a change. This is already covered in the rule impact analysis. However, we have an overlap from this feature that we can access the rule impact reports. And finally, we can push these changes directly to the firewall device. So let's take a look on how it looks in the product UI. Under the Rule Management tab, you click on Administration. Here you select the device. And you can see the network objects here, service objects, and security rules. So under network objects, you can represent the existing rules and objects in the selected firewall devices. And here the local objects represent the changes that you want to make in a specific firewall device. And the following changes can be made, where you can add a network object, service object in the security rule. You can edit an existing network object, service object in the security rule and delete the same. So to edit a firewall object, you can click on add. And when you click on add, doesn't mean this rule has been directly pushed to the firewall. But obviously, there are multiple steps before we push a firewall rule to a firewall device. This process applies to network objects and service objects as well. As mentioned before, you can also get a detailed impact analysis even before you make the change. And hence, you can optimize your changes even before you push them to the firewall. Now that you have edited the network, servers, and the security rules, let us look about how to push these to your firewall. We have the Review and Push tab, where all the changes that you have recorded are listed. And to push them to the firewall, you have to select them, and you need to enter the credentials of your firewall device and push these to the firewall. This is obviously for a security purpose, but if you want to push to the specific firewall, you can have to select those firewall and enter their credentials and push it, because you want to push the rules without authorization or validation. As an extra layer of review, we also have the commit, where we need to validate the push. Once we confirm here, the rule is finally pushed into your selected firewall device. And once we commit, the same is recorded in the commit audit for future reference. Also, if there are objects to the commit window, simply by clicking on the revert option, you'll be taken to the window to desired changes. So this Jim gets complete control over changes in the firewall rules, analyzing the impact of changes from a centralized tool. Now let us look into a new feature of Firewall Analyzer, the rule comparison, with which Jim can easily pinpoint changes made to the rule configuration between any two configuration file and the latest configuration, running configuration versions. With this, Jim can clearly identify all the changes made to the firewall rules across various configuration versions. This version lets you compare two different configurations. Let's say you want to make new configuration updates, but before you push it to live, you want to compare it with an existing configuration. Instead of doing this manually with Firewall Analyzer, you get a list of all different or common changes compared the existing configuration with old one. So let us take a look on how it looks in the UI. So under Rule Management tab, you click on the Comparison tab. So here, as you can see, you can choose between configuration files, configuration file with latest running configuration, and between running configuration versions. You can select the vendor name, select the file, browse from your device, and you can compare them. So when you hit compare, there are multiple changes that have been made, and you can also see the modifications, and there's a very high chance that something could have gone wrong. With this comparison, you can clearly see the visibility on what change has been made, and you can clearly revert that using firewall administration feature. As a rule management best practice, most security administrators set expiration dates for their firewall rules. After expiring, firewall rules need to be rectified to be reactivated again. However, as most organizations have hundreds of rules and multiple security admins working on these rules, it becomes clearly impossible to review the rules, expired rules, and rectify them manually. Firewall Analyzer's expiry notification feature can help security admins track the status of firewall rules and get notified on which rules have expired. This helps you get visibility on list of all the scheduled rules, enumerate all the active firewall rules for which the schedule has been set. Security admins can track specific active rules to get notified on the moment an active rule expires. Upcoming rules that catalogs all the rules that are scheduled to turn active in the future. Expired rules where it has records of all rules that have been expired. Recurring rules where it has list of the rules that are reactivated and certified on a regular basis, and all the given reports can be scheduled on a periodic basis and can be sent via email. So in the UI, you click on the expiry notification. As you can see, here are all the scheduled rules, active rules, upcoming rules, expired rules, and the recurring rules. So recurring rules are the rules that are certified and reactivated on a constant basis. This is a newly launched feature of Firewall Analyzer, and it is available from the versions 12.7 and above. So risk analysis has been introduced, reports to simplify and help you to prioritize and manage all rules. It helps you in listing rules based on severity, in identifying weak firewall policy configurations, and in limiting the rules and security incident. Now that Jim has reviewed all the rules and made necessary changes in the firewalls, let us look into the second task that he has been assigned, which is to monitor and record changes made to the firewall configuration. One of the employees in Jim's team left the company, and it is suspected that he did some damage to the firewall's misconfiguration. But this has gone unnoticed, and they had not been able to identify the exact specifics of the changes made. They want to avoid this in the future, and hence the second task that has been assigned to Jim is to monitor and record all the changes to the firewall. Also, given that the latest configuration has been tampered upon, it is required for Jim to identify a previous configuration version and restore the configuration files without any issues. Let us look at how Firewall Analyzer's change management reports and configuration backup help Jim resolve this issue. As mentioned before, changes made to the firewall configuration has under unnoticed previously. But with Firewall Analyzer, if say James has made a change in the firewall, it is recorded in the Firewall Analyzer. And Firewall Analyzer does not only track who made the change, but also when it was done and what was changed. Let us look at how the change management report looks in the product UI. So under Compliance tab, you click on Change Management, click a device, and here you can see a dashboard that has all the information with a single glance, and also it makes it easier to download the information on the screen in the form of reports. This window gives you an idea of not only the configuration changes, but also on the rule changes made in this firewall. So you can select the firewall device for which you want to monitor. And here I'm choosing this device. And you can see who has made the change. And also you can view the change time, the version number, and the change count. And with the Firewall Analyzer, you can see who made the changes in addition to when and what the changes were made. You get to know when a configuration change was made and who has made this change. So you can click here. You can see the newly made modifications, deletions, and new additions as well. Also, you can set alarms, notification directly to your email or SMS whenever there is a change made to the firewall configuration. You can also schedule change management reports weekly or on a daily basis. With this change management report, Jim gets clear visibility with over who changes what and also gets real-time alerts on all changes that have been made. With this feature, Jim can easily schedule automated configuration backups, and hence any erroneous modification to his current config version, either due to attack or due to network disaster, you can take a backup and export the copy of a previous version. Let us take a look on how this feature looks in the product UI. So under Compliance, you click on Config Backup. So you can see here all the list of schedules here. And to click on a backup schedule, you can provide a schedule name, and based on your requirement, config backups can be taken. And thus, Jim has successfully completed his second task. Now let us proceed to the next use case, where Jim has to submit a detailed complaint and a security audit report. Jim's company needs to be compliant with multiple security standards, but they are falling short with a lot of them. This has affected them so much that they have started losing customers as their complaints is not up to date. Jim has been assigned a task to submit a detailed complaints report and a security audit report. Let us take a look on how Firewall Analyzer helps Jim solve this issue. Firewall Analyzer provides out-of-the-box compliance standard reports, which include SANS, PCI DSS, NIST, ISO, NERC SCIP, SOX, HIPAA, GDPR, and Basel II. This helps you periodically check for complaints and also lets you assess your firewall security. Let us take a look of these reports that look in the product UI. Under Compliance, you click on Standards. You select the device. And as you can see here, the firewall is not up to standard for multiple compliance reports. On clicking on More, you can further drill down exactly where the sections have failed in. Say that Jim is working in a card-based company which deal with a lot of financial transaction and hence have to comply with PCI DSS. So as you can see from the product, we see that they are not compliant with PCI DSS. So when you select View More, you can get a clear status as to which sections they are failing in. The tick represents the sections that they are compliant in. The stars represent that they need to be manually reviewed. And the sections that have been marked cross are the sections which are failed in. So let us take a look of the failed section. And you can clearly see why they have failed in this section. A recommendation has also been provided, and post-implementation, Jim can come back and check if he has cleared this section. Similarly, he can work on all other sections and be compliant with at least a security standard. Security Audit Report. Firewall Analyzer's Security Audit Report helps you identify the configuration loopholes in your firewall. It lists security events based on criticality. So it lists how many events are critical, high, medium, low, and it provides a detailed finding what is the impact on the network and also suggests the rules and thus help prevent any security events. Let us look at how the product looks in the UI. So here, under compliance, you click on security audit. So for the given firewall, you see that there are critical configuration loopholes and the number of high, medium, and low loopholes. And now let's analyze a high impacting configuration loophole. Here you can see the impact and also a recommendation is provided under suggestions. And Jim can now go back to his firewall and make the necessary changes to his firewall configuration. Thus, having completed the final task, Jim has now completed all the 3 tasks assigned to him. And now that we have shown the rule management capabilities of Firewall Analyzer, if you would like to know how the same can be implemented in the demo, implemented in your network environment, please sign up for a personalized demo. To summarize, Firewall Analyzer is a policy and configuration management tool. It helps us identify policy anomalies, unused rules and objects, let us perform in-depth impact analysis, and helps us push policy changes directly into the firewall, thus plays a critical role in optimizing firewall performance. It provides out-of-the-box compliance reports for SANS, PCI DSS, NIST, ISO, NERC, and it also helps to monitor config changes and also helps to schedule config backups. Finally, Firewall Analyzer supports all major firewall devices. Listed here are the basic installation requirement. Firewall Analyzer can be installed on a Windows or a Linux system. All the syslogs received by the Firewall Analyzer by default is stored in the Postgres DB, and if you need, you can also configure the syslogs to be stored in an MS SQL server. The disk space and RAM size mentioned here are the minimum requirement, and the same might vary depending on the number of devices being analyzed and the number of devices sending log information to Firewall Analyzer. The following are the prerequisite ports that need to be free and respective protocols that would be used. The SSH SCP port protocol is 22, TFTP is 69, Telnet is 23, and finally, as mentioned before, the UDP will be 1514 for the Firewall Analyzer to receive the syslogs. And we provide technology partnerships with Checkpoint, WatchGuard, and Palo Alto. We support more than 50 vendors and over 200 devices. And Firewall Analyzer provides the rule management reports for all the given list of firewall. And you can visit our website to get access to the complete list of vendors. And we have a lot more exciting topics to cover on the next training session, which is scheduled for 13th August. So here you can know more on how to set real-time alarm notifications in the Firewall Analyzer and get an understanding of the practical applications on how to secure your network by analyzing all the syslog reports generated by Firewall Analyzer. Last but not the least, we'll also be taking an in-depth as how to monitor and generate VPN reports using Firewall Analyzer. This is of an extreme importance, especially now that a majority of corporate organizations have adopted the work from home approach. Don't forget to join us for next week. If you need more help on the product, kindly visit our help page or post your queries in our forum. Feel free to reach out to our support team by mail or phone. You can share your experience on Capterra and get a $25 gift card. And if you want to know more on firewall rule, policy, and ACL best practices, firewall change request processes, firewall change management best practices, and firewall compliance, you can download our latest ebook on 10 firewall best practices for network security admins. The download link will be shared to you via email, or you can also go to ebooks.firewallanalyzer.com. How does ManageEngine ensure the integrity of its ITOM products? With respect to customer security and customer data security, we from ManageEngine can assure you that we take customer security and customer data as a top priority, and we make sure that it is protected at all costs. If you want to know more about VPN management and also want to collect the following collaterals, please do not forget to join our next session. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this was a useful training session.